money no longer feels real. This isn't just something a few people are dealing with, and it's kind of just common across the entire population, mainly because housing has gone up so much, rent has gone up so much, food has gone up so much. All these things have just even movie tickets over $20 an hour or $20 for a ticket. It's absurd, not to mention every other thing that comes in a movie, like candy. The reality is, since 2008, the Federal Reserve, which is the uh, pretty much money printer of America, has been doing nothing but printing money. And the problem with that is everything goes up with money supply. So there's more money in the system. Everything within the system also increases. So a lot of assets, pretty much all assets, have gone up with the money supply. This has also created the illusion that people are getting much richer than they really are. I mean, if the money supply goes up 500%, so times six, and your net worth went up times six, you really didn't gain anything at all. You gained zero effectively because everybody else went up times six. If you were 50 percentile before, you're 50 percentile now. And that's the saddest part with people who bought homes and now feel as though they have a retirement. Their home is worth as much as the rest of the market, meaning if your home went up 10x, so did the other homes. Meaning if you sell your home, you're going to need another home. And there's no other cheap place because every other home went up 10x. Meaning, relatively speaking, you didn't make any money at all, especially with everything else going up in price. So this has made a fake feeling because it's like, okay, if I didn't buy a house in 2008, I never got to ride this rate wave. Or if I didn't buy any assets in 2008, which, if you weren't alive or if you were too young, obviously that's just impossible, then I didn't get to get this wave of increased assets. But the reality is, even then, even if you are someone who bought it back then, it's not real in the first place. There's a big rug pull pretty much about to happen because at the end of the day, who's buying the new stuff? The only people who could afford to buy the inflated prices are the same people who currently hold the inflated prices, meaning they will have to eventually sell or it'll be forced liquidated, when they die, um, and then, leave their inheritance or whatever to a group of people who can only afford it at a tenth of the price, maybe even like if you're being nice, a fifth of the price. You know what I mean? Some of these are just ridiculous. This also creates that fake feeling because it's a little absurd when you look into your local neighborhood and what one time what was like, let's say a middle class looking home, and now you look it up on Zillow and somehow it cost $1 million. It's pretty much a joke because what middle class family can afford $1 million home? Even a $500,000 home, especially in like, let's say outside of the economic centers such as like New York, is just absurd. Some people only are making 80 to $100,000 a year family wise, and yet they're in a neighborhood where the cheapest home costs $500,000. How is that even possible? Well, the reality is, once again, the money printing has made it a possibility. That being said, that won't always be the case. And it does seem as though the Federal Reserve, is pointing towards more fiscal responsibility or reducing the amount of M2, which is money supply. But it also could just keep printing and then the assets or the overinflation gets redistributed. So uh, we'll see how that goes. It's going to be a very interesting split. That being said, it's not a continuation of anything at all. The fact that we can sense the fakeness is the proof the continuation is breaking. Um, it would be very easy to just, continue if there was no uh, issues with the current system. You see what I mean? Like, it's very easy to adopt a working system. Nobody is very against working systems. So the proof of, you know, inability to adopt is the proof the system also could be at fault or could be just broken in general. Another thing people are worried about is obviously the massive inheritance, as there's going to be about like $100 trillion, like over $100 trillion in inheritances between the silent boomer generation and the younger ones. Uh, this is just an opportunity to grab that inheritance. See, that inheritance has always been locked up. But during liquidation events and when the younger people get in and start spending, that's when you can actually have access to it by offering services or goods at increased prices because now they have way more money than ever before in order to actually grab that uh, slice of the pie. So if anything, starting a business now would be the best idea as you will be able to uh, get access to money that didn't exist before. The reality is you shouldn't be worried about like whatever kid, receiving hundreds of millions or $1 billion because you weren't going to have access to that money either way. You don't have access to it now anyways. So it's not like it, puts you in a lower economic situation. If anything, this would be the opportunity to be able to actually grab a slice of the pie through a business, through services, so that would be also a good move to make in order to avoid, uh, the impending doubt of uh, everybody's getting an inheritance and not me. Another thing making money feel fake is the top percent and the government. Right now, the government's spending like $5, $6 trillion a year. Trillion is just a made up number. It really feels like a made up number, especially when you're talking about money. I mean, where is the $5 or $6 trillion going? So many people are wondering. Obviously, Social Security is a big one, but it's just wild to think that there is just $5 to $6 trillion just being injected into America every single year by the government. Where? Like, I just don't. Nobody sees that. Like, how often are your roads neglected? How often is the municipalities just struggling? How often do you hear even like local governments, struggling to fund programs? Yet there's 5 to 6 trillion just being thrown. Where? Another one is the top percent of wealthy elites. Elon Musk just hit $1 trillion net worth, which sounds made up. How can he be like what do you mean $1 trillion? What even costs $1 trillion? Is there even anything that costs $1 trillion? Most people think $1,000, like $1,000 purchase is expensive. Meanwhile, Elon Musk has $1 trillion. We used to think like billionaires were rich. Elon Musk looks at billionaires like they're fucking impoverished. It's just mind-boggling how much money there is, but yet how little money there is at the same exact time, which once again makes it feel fake. How can all your local homes cost $1 million? The richest the richest person is a trillionaire. The government spends $5 to $6 trillion, but yet you're struggling to get a job for $100,000 a year. What? Where? All this money, and I'm talking 100,000. I'm talking $200,000. Like, it sounds comical. It sounds like a like not even a drop in a bucket. Like even less than a drop in a bucket. Like I don't even know. Like a cell in the bucket. You know what I mean? And that's what's contributing to that fake feeling between the absurd prices, the absurd wealth, and the absurd spending by the government, and yet you're over here like, oh my goodness, how do I justify this $30 DoorDash order? $30. I mean, what is $30 compared to everything else but us? You know what I mean? Oh man, the new GTA 6 is gonna be $100. And we're like, that shit's crazy. How, of course, this is ridiculous. Of course, it feels fake. Of course, it feels like things need to change. Because how can the government freely spend 5, 6 trillion? How can there be a trillionaire? And how can there be, $1 million homes? And yet, we're thinking about GTA 6 being $100. We're struggling to get a job for 100K. I mean, it's comical. There's no way there's this much money and yet so little for us at the same exact time. Something has to give because once again, we have to also buy the assets. Eventually, those homes do have to be sold to us. Eventually, those stocks have to be sold to us. Eventually, they have to put us into the economy. The question is when and how, because clearly they want to also keep all the money. They don't want to give us the money to put us into the economy, but they also want us to have the money from, I guess, Magic Land in order to buy into the economy, which is crazy. So, anyways, that's all I have for this topic, and thanks for watching.